In last week's lectures, we were looking at linear models. One of the things about linear models is that they have a very clearly defined structure, in particular in the way that they use their parameters or weights. This week, we're going to be looking at models for which that is not the case. These are known broadly as non-parametric models, which obviously means I have to use this GIF. This is clearly an example of quite unhelpful terminology because the models do have parameters. If they didn't, we wouldn't be able to fit them at all. However, the parameters are not fixed and ordained in these kinds of models. Instead, they are in some way determined by the data. So the number of parameters and the way they interact and the structure of them is learned as part of the learning process. This is a term that comes from statistics. Statistical models that are non-parametric are ones that don't assume a particular parametric distribution for the data. So you don't say that the data is normally distributed, for example. Parametric distributions sum up the way that the data is spread out or shaped in a fairly efficient fashion as a small number of fixed parameters. And in general, it's true that parameters tend to be an efficient way of summarizing a data distribution. With non-parametric models, the data has to be summarized in some other way. Now, depending on the nature of the data, this may be enormously efficient, but there's certainly scope for it not to be. For example, in some non-parametric models, such as k-nearest neighbors, which we'll look at very shortly, the model parameters are the entire training data set itself. This obviously can grow significantly. If you're looking at a linear model in a 100-dimensional space, then you know that you'll always have exactly 100 weights and a bias. If your training set consists of 100 samples, you'll have 100 weights and a bias. If your training set consists of 1,000,000 samples, you'll still have 100 weights and a bias. For a model that needs to remember the entire training set, if you've got 100 training examples in a 100-dimensional space, then that's 10,000 pieces of data that you have to remember. If you've got 1,000,000 training examples in a 100-dimensional space, that's 100 million pieces of data that you have to remember. Obviously, this gets quite inefficient. However, parametric models impose certain biases on the structure of the data, which non-parametric models don't need to. They make certain assumptions about the way that it's distributed. And so there can be a trade-off here. For certain kinds of data distribution, a non-parametric model may be able to capture features that a parametric model can't. Although this is not always the case for non-parametric models, for the ones that we're going to look at this week, they can often be usefully understood in terms of chopping up the input feature space into disjoint regions and then assigning an output value to each of those regions. For the case of the models that we're going to look at, those output values are in fact constants, although they could be a function of the data in that region. All of the regions are effectively independent. There is no imposed structure on them, and there is no assumption of locality, for example. There's nothing to say that adjacent regions have to be similar. This notion of chopping up the feature space into distinct regions may bring to mind the piecewise constant and piecewise linear spline fitting examples that were given in the basis expansion lecture last week. And there is definitely a similarity in those approaches. In fact, basis expansion is a useful way of understanding some of the kinds of models that we're going to be looking at later this week. One of the consequences of this partitioning of the feature space is that it imposes a degree of discrete structure on models. As such, they are often better understood in terms of classification and regression, although in fact they can all be used for both tasks. We will focus on the classification case today, but point out where there are significant differences when the same models are going to be applied for regression. As a general rule of thumb, those differences are that the loss function that's used will be different and that the method of aggregation will be. And so typically the aggregation will use averaging in the case of regression, but it may well use voting in the case of classification.